Every linked account ban you have ever heard about traces back to one thing. Something was shared that should not have been. A device, an address, a phone number, a card, an email. Amazonation is not a mysterious dark art. It is just the discipline of making sure that nothing your accounts have in common can ever be used to tie them together. This is the full checklist I actually run, layer by layer, so that no two accounts ever share a thread a platform can pull. Get every item right, and there is simply nothing linking one account to the next. The shared thing principle. Start with the core idea, because it makes every item obvious. Platforms link accounts by finding what they have in common. That is the whole mechanism. So the entire job of annihilation is to remove the commonalities, one category at a time, until two accounts are as unrelated as two strangers on opposite sides of a city. You are not trying to be invisible. You are trying to make sure that when a platform looks for a connection between two of your accounts, there is genuinely nothing there to find. Every point below is one category of shared thing, eliminated. One profile per account. The device layer comes first. Each account gets its own antidetect browser profile, with its own fingerprint, its own canvas and graphics values, its own fonts and screen and hardware story. Never reused, never copied, never two accounts in one profile. A shared profile hands the platform the cleanest possible link. The same device under two names, which is exactly the pattern its detection is built to catch. One account, one profile, and that profile is that account's device for as long as the account lives. This is the item people break most and regret most. One proxy per account. Next, the network layer. Each account gets its own dedicated, sticky proxy matched to the profile's claimed location. Not a shared pool that hundreds of strangers hammer. Not one office connection touching every account. Not an address that jumps around under a logged-in session. One account, one steady address that only it uses, in the right country for its story. A dedicated proxy means the only reputation that address ever carries is the one this single account earns. So a neighbor's mistake can never become your ban and two of your accounts never share an address. One number per account. Now the account details, where the real damage usually hides. Each account that needs a phone number gets its own, and that number is never reused as a recovery contact on another account. A recovery phone shared across two identities links them in the platform's own internal records, somewhere no proxy or fingerprint can reach. This is one of the strongest links there is, precisely because it lives in the account's data, not the connection. Treat every phone number as belonging to exactly one identity, for verification and recovery both. And never let one number quietly anchor several accounts. One email per account. Same logic for email. Each account gets its own address, ideally aged a little, rather than freshly minted the same minute as the account, and not obviously all funneling into one inbox in a way that screams single owner. A shared recovery email is the same kind of internal link as a shared phone, a direct thread in the platform's records. The addresses should be genuinely separate identities, not 10 variations of one name that any human reviewer would instantly read as the same person. The email is part of the identity you are isolating, not a throwaway detail. One payment path. Money is the link that wipes out fleets. A single card funding a dozen accounts ties all of them together the moment the platform looks, regardless of perfect proxies and fingerprints. Each account that pays for anything needs its own separated payment path, or the accounts need to be legitimately declared as parts of one real business, which is a different and honest situation platforms actually allow. What you cannot do is run supposedly independent identities all of one wallet and expect them to stay unlinked. The billing layer has to respect the same separation as every other layer. Separate, warm up. Amazonation is not only about static details, it is about history too. Each account earns its own trust on its own timeline, warmed gradually as its own person, rather than a dozen accounts marched through the identical script on the same schedule. Accounts that share an identical history and an identical pace are linked by that pattern even when every device and address is clean. Give each identity its own slightly different, human-paced path into trust, so their behavioral histories do not rhyme in a way that looks coordinated. No cross-login, ever. The discipline that ties it together is never crossing the streams. Never log two accounts into the same profile, even once, even briefly. Never log one account into two different profiles. A single slip, one account opened in the wrong profile for one session, can create the exact device link you built the whole system to avoid, and it cannot be undone afterward. This is where tired operators get caught. A late-night mistake loading the wrong identity. Slow down at the login step. Confirm the profile matches the account every time. The host machine underneath, remember that every profile still runs on your real computer, and a weak tool can let that one shared machine leak into all of them at once, stamping the same hidden trait on every profile that would link everything through the one thing they truly share. So part of isolation is trusting the tool that provides it. Using a serious antidetect browser that genuinely seals each profile from the host, and testing that a profile really looks like its own machine and not like your laptop underneath a thin mask. The host is the one device they all sit on, so it must not show through. Naming and records. You cannot maintain isolation you cannot see. Keep a clear map. Which account uses which profile, which proxy, which number, which email, which payment path. Name everything plainly instead of leaving a wall of untitled profiles and mystery addresses. When you have 5 accounts, this feels unnecessary. And when you have 50, it is the only thing standing between you and a fatal mix-up. The record is what lets you confirm, at a glance, that nothing is shared. And it is what lets you find the problem fast when something is. The pre-launch check and the periodic audit. Build 2 habits around the records. Before any new account goes live, run a short checklist. Own profile, own proxy verified, and leak tested. Own number, own email, own payment, correct geography, all matching. 2 minutes that prevent a permanent link. And periodically audit the whole fleet, because setups drift, a proxy expires and gets lazily reused, a number gets recycled, 2 profiles quietly converge. The audit catches the accidental sharing that creeps in over time, before a ban wave finds it for you. And isolation is not a one-time setup. It is a standard you keep. Team handoff and backups. If more than one person runs these accounts, move an identity between people properly, through the tool's real handoff, so the profile travels with its proxy intact and nothing gets copied or duplicated. Passing profiles around as copied files breaks isolation and clones fingerprints. And back the identities up so a dead laptop or a wiped drive does not take a set of warmed accounts with it. An account you spent weeks building is worth protecting against ordinary hardware failure that has nothing to do with detection at all. Isolate the content too. Separation is not only about the plumbing, it is about what the accounts actually put out. Posting the identical image, the identical caption, the identical link across several accounts links them by content, no device or address required. And images carry hidden metadata. The file can record the device that made it, sometimes a location, and reusing one photo across accounts quietly stamps them all with the same origin. Strip that metadata and vary what each account posts so they read as separate people with separate voices. 2 accounts that always say the same thing at the same time are linked by that alone, however clean the connection underneath. Watch for patterns in the details. Isolation breaks when the separate details still rhyme. Names that count upward, emails that are one name with a rising number on the end. Profiles created in a tidy sequence. All of these are patterns a platform can spot, even though each account is technically distinct. Real people do not arrive in a neat numbered row. So vary the details themselves, not just keep them separate, so that a reviewer glancing at 10 of your accounts side by side sees 10 unrelated individuals rather than one obvious series. The separation has to look natural, not just be technically present in the plumbing. Isolate the accounts on the machine. If you run profiles directly on one computer, consider isolating at the operating system level too. Separate system users or separate virtual machines, so a stray file, a shared cache outside the browser, or a system-level identifier cannot breach 2 identities behind the antidetect tool's back. This matters most when you are not using a hosted setup, where each profile is already sandboxed. The goal is that no layer of the machine, not the browser, not the file system, not the operating system account, carries a trait shared across identities. The deeper the isolation goes, the fewer accidental breaches survive. What isolation does not fix, and the honest limit, be clear about the boundary. Isolation removes the shared things that link accounts. It does not make any single account behave well. A perfectly isolated account that spams all day still gets caught on its own behavior, and isolation cannot save it. What isolation guarantees is only this: when that one account falls, it falls alone, with no threat to drag the others down with it. That is the achievable goal. Not immortality for each account, but a fleet where no single failure can cascade. Behavior is still a separate job, on top of a clean separations. Think of isolation as the walls between rooms in a building. Good walls do not stop a fire starting in one room, but they stop that fire spreading to the whole building. You still have to avoid starting fires, and you still want walls that actually hold. The operators who lose everything almost always lost it because one wall was missing, one shared card, one reused number, one profile opened twice, and the fire walked straight through the gap into every room at once. And on my own fleet exactly off this checklist, one profile, one real Singapore mobile proxy, one number, one email, one payment path per account, records for all of it, audited regularly, because I would rather spend the setup time than lose a batch to one shared thread I forgot about. MultiAccountOps.com has this checklist written out in full. The pre-launch and audit versions, and honest reviews of the tools that make the separation hold. No affiliate guesswork, just the system I actually use. If you want a fleet where no two accounts share anything, that is the place to start. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, sticky versus rotating proxies. When rotation genuinely helps, and when it quietly burns a logged-in account that should have stayed on one steady address the whole time.